Hey everyone, it's Larry Gordon. This is Between the Lines. I'm here with my partner. Your name?
In life, Esta Gordon.
Esta Gordon, and this is Between the Lines. A very special guest here in via video from his office or home, wherever it is, somewhere in the United States of America, is Morton Klein. The head of the ZOA, that stands for the Zionist Organization of America, and it's a very popular name these days, Mort. The word Zionist has taken on a number of different iterations over the last few years. Have you seen the changes? Does it mean something different than it meant a few years ago?
Well, it's ridiculous. I mean,
yeah.
All that Zionism means is the right of Jews to live in their ancient homeland, given to us by God in the Bible, given to us by the Balfour Declaration when England legally controlled this area, given to us by all sorts of international resolutions, the San Remo Resolution, given to us by Resolution 181 of the United Nations in 1947. So all it means is that the Jews have the right to live in this little tiny area, live there in our homeland. We have more of a right to live in Israel, we Jews, than the French have the right to live in France or Spanish in Spain or the Mexicans in Mexico. That's all it means. It's nothing complicated. And
right.
To make this some sort of ugly word is just this, is nothing but pure Jew hatred. It is pure Jew hatred to make this an ugly word. I've actually had people come to me urging me to change the name of our organization to the Jewish Organization of America, as if that would make us more amenable to the Jew haters.
Hand in hand, Zionist and Jewish. The hate is all around.
And it's interesting that I thought, like you started to say, I think using the word anti-Semitism as they do in the media, it really, the word anti-Semitism, nobody knows what it really means. It translates into Jew hatred in very plain language. But the media, for example, doesn't want to say the words Jew hatred. They prefer to say anti-Semitism, which really, it's really most people, especially young people today, they have no idea what it means. It's like the young kids that paint swastikas on mailboxes. They have no idea what it represents.
The Muslims have a right to 56 countries, and the Jews don't have a right to one little country. The Arabs have a right to 22 Arab countries, which is double the size of the United States of America, which is 160 times the size of Israel. They have a right to that, and their people are screaming against Israel's existence. Are they screaming against Iran's existence, this terrible state, Libya's existence, Sudan's existence, Ethiopia's existence? These countries which have monstrous human rights abusers, monstrous. And nobody's questioning whether they should exist. Only Israel, which proves it's simply Jew hatred, and which is an irrational hatred. It makes no sense. But but it's only Jew hatred. That's the explanation.
So what about internally within the world of Jewish organizations?
Right.
There's a divide. There's a split there as well. Where do you think you fall in terms of your location and the way you're viewed by the organized Jewish world?
As you know, 75 to 8% of Jews vote for liberal Democrats. Virtually every Jewish organization is left wing. ZOA is a rational centrist organization. Why do I say it is inappropriate to call us right-wing? Not that there's anything wrong with it, because telling the truth about Oslo, saying it will be a disaster, is not right-wing. It's simply the truth. Condemning the Gaza withdrawal, where 10,000 Jews were thrown out of their homes in Gaza and northern Samaria, that's not right. To condemn that, that's not right-wing. That's simply correct. to be opposed to a Palestinian state, which would of course be a terrorist state, a state which right now says no Jew will be allowed in such a state if they have one, and where they spend $400 million a year. They pay to Arabs to murder Jews. 400 million. They get a life. If you kill an Arab kills a Jew, or a Christian, by the way, he gets a lifetime pension at 5 times the average salary of a Palestinian. So to condemn that is right wing. It is rational centrist. We are to the right of all the other Jewish groups because they're all left wing. So we're to the right of them. But our own position is rational centrist.
Well, there's a lot going. Obviously, there's a lot going on politically, and there isn't. If I watch the news, I have it on constantly in my office and at home, and your ears always perk up because practically every other story has something to do with Israel or the Jewish community or whoever's running for office. I mean, even the people that are competing to replace this miscreant in Maine, Graham Plattner. 6 people that are supposed to replace him. I think they finally decided on one of them. The competition was who has more animosity towards Israel and the Jews. He's the person that is going to be the one that's chosen to run for office.
It is a frightening time that being hostile to the Jewish state and to Jews is politically beneficial. It's very dangerous. Even Haley Stevens in Michigan is screaming Israel's committing genocide. She's running against Abdul al-Sayed, a monstrous Jew hater. The new person in Maine says Israel's committing genocide. Israel, which handed out polio vaccines to everyone, which calls Arabs in Gaza by cell phone, by dropping leaflets, by having knock bombs on the buildings saying, get out of this area, we're going to hit it.
Knock, knock.
That's a hell of a way to commit genocide, by protecting the lives of Gaza Arabs. And maybe this is a major war. 20 or 30,000 Arabs have been killed that are not Hamas terrorists out of 2 million people. That's hardly a genocide. This is one of the gigantic blood libels in Jewish history. It reminds me of reading about the Middle Ages when they were claiming that the Jews are murdering Christian boys to get their blood to make matzah. When they were claiming that the Jews are poisoning the wells, causing the bubonic plague. When I would read about that as a young person, I would think, this is insane. How could anyone have believed this? It's so insane. But look what we're living through. Accusing Israel of genocide, of apartheid, when it's complete rubbish, and yet people are believing it. It really makes it is so irrational. In some sense, it means to me Hashem must be operating this world. There must be a God, because there's no other explanation why this is being believed. Hashem must have a plan that we as little humans cannot understand.
Hashem must have quite a sense of humor. I think. I think also. Let's shift just slightly over to it's been said by President Trump and by a number of Jewish leaders and pedestrians as well that Donald Trump is the best friend that Israel ever had in the White House.
That's correct. He is.
So the position seems to have shifted a little bit on that in some circles.
That's also correct.
What's your estimate on that?
He's still the best friend.
Look, Donald Trump is the greatest friend to Israel and the Jewish people we've ever had in the White House. He moved the embassy to Jerusalem. He recognized the Golan Heights. He gave Israel all the arms it needs during the war, which Biden denied. Biden wouldn't give them ammunition, and he wouldn't give them the arms that are needed. This is not well known. He was awful to Israel. In fact, Biden, when the Jews said how wonderful it is that Biden, 2 weeks after this nightmare of 10/7, he came to Israel, if you remember. And the Jews said, look how wonderful. He comes to Israel. He's with us. It's a wonderful thing he did. Do you know what he said when he got off the plane? On the tarmac, the first thing that Biden said when he came off the plane was, Israel's got to give the Palestinian Arabs a state. We need a Palestinian state. That's the first thing he said.
I'm not sure that he knew.
After the massacre.
I'm not sure that he knew he was in Israel at the time.
Well, believe me, he knew enough. He knew enough.
Okay, that could be. So
and
you
also,
still maintain.
He's also
Go ahead.
really pushed utilizing Title VI to protect Jewish students at universities and colleges and high schools.
Oh,
So
Trump did.
he's done a tremendous amount for the Jewish people. I will never. And by the way, even closing the border, Obama and Biden opened the border and allowed 6 million Muslims to come to America. 6 million Muslims. There used to be 1 million Muslims in America before Obama. Now there's 7 or 8 million Muslims. And the problem is, in every one of their surveys, 75 to 95% of Muslims are anti-Semitic. Their own surveys and our own surveys. So he's brought a huge number of anti-Semites to America. This is a terrible thing. So Trump closing that border is also a tremendous benefit, not only to America, but to the Jewish people.
Listen, they
And
came
also
from,
his war against Iran is protecting Israel and protecting America. So that's also very important.
And
What
these
he's doing. So no,
Muslims are-
he continues with, even though we have issues here and there with him lately, but overall he's still the greatest friend. Look, I have issues every now and then with my wife. She's the best wife I could ever imagine.
Anyway, what I want to say is the real problem is these Muslims, a lot of them are ending up in the colleges as teachers, in
Professors.
hospitals as doctors, and onward. And it's very dangerous because what are they doing? This is a plan. Poison the younger generation. Put the word genocide. They don't even know what genocide is. Just keep saying it over and over again so it sounds true to them.
they don't know what genocide is. They don't know what a
They
swastika
don't.
is. They don't know what
No.
anti-Semitism is. But President Trump said himself in the
But they
past.
know Hitler, Nazi. They
Yeah,
compare everybody to Hitler and
they
Nazis.
don't know much about the history
No, they don't.
either. These are stuff that's fed to them. But Trump said himself, maybe it was during the campaign or maybe after he won, he said, any Jew that doesn't vote for him has to have their head examined.
That's true. He's right.
And still, he gets, what do you get, 25%?
Every time I've had lunch or dinner with him privately, the first thing he says to me is, Mort, what is wrong with your people? I didn't do enough for
right.
Israel.
He's right.
I don't do enough for the Jews. How
He's
do they
right.
not vote for me? What is wrong with your people? It's the
What do you
first thing he
tell him?
says to me when he sits down at the table.
So what do you tell him?
People have psychological problems.
I tell him this proves that it is a myth that the Jewish people are a very intelligent people. That's what this proves.
75. I think Ronald Reagan got the highest Jewish vote in in his re-election campaign. I think he had 38 or 39% of the Jewish
39%
vote.
was the highest.
39% are the highest. The best Trump does is what? 25%.
That's correct. You got it right.
Okay, 25%. And so, what is wrong? Let's talk about the Jewish people. Where this
Look, I think
idea?
it's my own theory. Is that 2,000 years of enormous hatred of Jews, persecution, discrimination, pogroms, a Holocaust, has so damaged the mind of Jewish people. We're so afraid of the world because of, look at our 2,000-year history of enormous hatred and massacres, that we're desperate to have people not hate us and harm us. And so I believe we became Democrats because Democrats have programs, welfare programs, health insurance, building
not
homes,
working.
whatever. I think
Right.
Jews feel we want to support programs for people, even though it doesn't work. So the Gentile will see, look, we can say, we're fighting for you to give you programs and give you benefits. Don't hate us, don't harm us.
Yeah, it sounds a lot like the Germans in Germany who thought they were going to be fine because, after all, their neighbors love them.
I'll tell you, many times when I wanted to say something, ZOA and Morton Klein wanted to say something publicly to condemn something that's happening in the government, I would be told by Malcolm Hoenlein, by Howard Core of AIPAC, by others, don't do it yourself, Mort. Get a Gentile to do it. Get a Gentile. Don't do it yourself. We're afraid to defend ourselves.
Wow.
We say, get someone else. Do the blacks wait for white people to defend them? Blacks say, condemn wherever they think people are hurting the black people. They say it openly. They're not waiting for
And
some...
even if they're not hurting them, they say it. So what's the difference?
Listen, more that's
the
been
best
proven.
description I have of Jewish leaders is frightened, pathetic appeasers. Frightened, pathetic appeasers. They want to appease, and as Winston Churchill said, those who appease the crocodile will simply be eaten last. It doesn't work anyway.
Oh, I didn't hear
like
that
that?
one. I like it.
That's Winston Churchill,
They'll be
not
eaten.
me.
Right.
They'll be eaten last. The appeasers, they'll be eaten last by the crocodiles. Okay, that's an important thing to remember. But you're right on target. I don't know if President Trump understands it. So when you say to him, look, the Hillary Clinton, the women in America were happy to accept Hillary Clinton as the first woman president of the United States, or even Kamala Harris, with all her drawbacks, to be the first female president of the United States. And of course, the black community was, excited about Barack Obama, only because he was, African American or
He was half
partially
black. He was
half black.
his
That's
mother
right.
was
They,
white.
they don't talk about the other half.
When
See, I
people
did
say
not-
to
I
me,
did-
"How dare you attack Obama as a black man?" I said, "No,
Tell him
I condemn the white half of Obama, not the black half."
you mean his grandmother. Right.
Yeah, I think it was his mother.
mother.
His
He lived with his
yeah.
white grandparents.
Right. And his mother.
Listen, we have an African American friend of ours, a lifelong friend,
40 years
and
or
he
more.
he says to us that he didn't like Obama. He did nothing for the black people.
Right.
Anytime he had an opportunity to help us, he didn't do it. But if he would run again, I would vote for
would
him
vote
again.
for him again.
I would vote for him again. But when Joe Lieberman ran as Al Gore's running mate, the Jewish people were trembling. What happens if What happens if Gore wins with Lieberman, and something happens to Gore? Oh my God, Lieberman's going to be president. What's going to happen
2,000
to us
years
then?
of a terrible history of how people of the world has treated us has made us very insecure and extremely nervous. It's a pathology that we endure because of our experience for 2,000 years.
So when people ask you to change the name of your organization, what do you tell them?
I say, if we do that, we will send a powerful message that there's something ugly and wrong about Zionism, that maybe it is racism.
Right.
It will send a terrible message that will validate the people who condemn the word Zionism. So we can't do that.
Can't validate anything they think.
I know that you. I don't want to say where you live unless you want to say. I know you don't live in New York.
I live in Philadelphia.
You live in Philadelphia,
Oh,
but
so-
you don't live in New York.
Okay.
How do you feel very fortunate that you don't live in New York?
Now
these
I do.
days?
I didn't before. I used to
It's
I
something
always
else.
thought I'll do this for another. Look, I'm president of ZOA, believe it or not, for 33 years. It's
Yeah.
quite shocking.
Right.
I always thought I'll do it for a year or two. Every year I thought maybe another year or two. So I never moved to New York because I thought I'm going to be leaving anyway in a year or two. And now it became a career which I never intended. Look, my background is biostatistics and economics. I worked in medical research for 20 years with the great two-time Nobel Prize winning chemist Linus Pauling. That's what I did for 20 years. And when I was doing medical research, I only got praise from everyone for my work and what I did. Only nice things were said. Now
Not
I got
anymore.
into the Jewish world, half the people attack me all the time.
It's amazing. So let's try to look ahead a little bit. The midterm elections are coming up. They're very important. Let's talk about, before I get into next year, let's talk about the vote last week,
Right.
where 109 Democrats voted
against.
to stop providing arms to Israel. You know, the Democrats are once the darlings. Look at some of the names of the people that voted. Nancy Pelosi. I'm not saying she's a tzaddikus, but look how she
Seven
voted. She
Jews voted against it. Seven
well-
Jews.
Okay, do you know them by heart? You know what their
Wait,
names
was
are by
it-
heart?
Raskin
Sanders.
voted against it. Jan Schakowsky.
Raskin, right?
The guy from Boston, Massachusetts, whose name I can't recall.
Yeah.
Jerry Nadler voted
Nadler,
president.
of course.
He didn't vote
Nadler
against it. He
voted-
voted
Na-
president.
Nadler
Wouldn't
voted for-
wouldn't vote in
Not to
favor
give
of-
arms.
of Israel getting aid. And remember, this is one. It's in the middle of a war. In the middle of a war against Hamas, Hezbollah, Iran, the Houthis. This is endangering Jewish lives and American lives.
An American.
And let me tell you something most people don't know. After this vote, there was a vote on funding Jordan, to whom we give $1.5 billion. Not a single Democrat voted against funding Jordan. None. Even though Jordan harbors terrorists, they're a dictatorship, kingship, they're human rights abusers. No one. And none of these people, again, have ever attacked Sudan, who've massacred hundreds of thousands of Christians in Sudan, Somalia, Ethiopia, Iran, Iraq. Only Israel is the ones they condemn and attack. Iran, Trump just announced today, we now know the numbers. Iran massacred 52,000 Iranian citizens who were protesting.
They were saying
the
it was
40,000.
52,000. 52,000.
Right.
Is there any demonstrations on any college campus against 52,000 protesters being massacred? No, because Jews didn't do it. So so more proof this is all Jew hatred.
So look what's going on in New York with Mamdani. You know, he's making the news. Netanyahu is not scheduled to come to New York till the end of September. We're recording this on July 21st.
Because he knows he doesn't have a leg to stand on. He just wants to keep saying it.
It makes the news that
right.
And what is it a mayor's business?
They shouldn't talk about it.
What's he doing? Foreign affairs. He's a mayor. Fix the potholes. You know, work with housing.
He's one of you Secretary of State.
Yeah.
We listened to that.
He should collect the garbage.
He's the only mayor in the country.
He's not the Secretary of State.
Right.
That takes positions on foreign affairs. It's not his business to begin with.
I think,
but it gets his followers very, very excited to hear that he may be the one to put the cuffs on Netanyahu if he's walking down Fifth Avenue. I hope when Netanyahu does get here in September for the General Assembly, that he does take a walk down Fifth Avenue. You know,
Trump said yesterday. I think he said that he has no legal right to arrest Netanyahu. It's nonsense. John Fetterman, a Democrat on the Senate side, called Mamdani a clown for even thinking about that he has any right to arrest Netanyahu.
It's a good thing that Zoran rhymes with moron. You know,
he's not a moron, but he's not a moron. He's a very clever Jew hater who's been very effective in promoting his agenda. So we should not say he's a moron because he's not. I wish he was.
Yeah, but it just happens to rhyme, so it's good for headline writers.
Well,
it's a good front page for the Post.
It's good for the headline writers. Let's look ahead a little bit. All right, J.D. Vance.
That's a good one.
Where is he at? Where's he at, and where do you stand in terms of your thought process with him?
Look, I'm sorry to say, ZOA is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. I'm not allowed to oppose or support anyone for any political office. I can talk about people's policies, but I can't in any way imply that someone should support or oppose any candidate, including J.D. Vance.
Okay. What do you think of his policies?
I don't know what his policies are.
They keep changing.
You know, J.D. Vance has a Tucker Carlson problem, or he did have a Tucker Carlson problem.
It is deeply disturbing when he had a chance to criticize Tucker Carlson when he spoke at the Turning Point. He refused to do it. Carlson's son, I believe, was his chief of staff.
Worked for him.
He blamed Israel for behind the scenes pressuring the American administration to have this be a never-ending war. Israel doesn't want a never-ending war. We want a war to get rid of this regime, and then it should end. So even his statement is just not accurate. And this let me tell you something.
Yeah.
I would tell this to Vance. If Israel didn't exist, if there was no Israel, America would have to go to war against Iran. Because Iran, every week, government-controlled protests screaming, death to America, America's the big Satan. Death to Israel, Israel's a little Satan. They condemn America repeatedly. The big prize, the big kahuna is America. So the danger is for America. And don't forget, we've had... This has been a 47-year war where this regime captured 52 American hostages back in 79, 80 from the embassy.
Yeah.
Right.
Murdered 241 Marines in Lebanon. Killed thousands of Americans in the Iraq War. Iran did. Killed Americans in the U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania. Killed Americans when they bombed the USS Cole. killed Americans when they bombed the Khobar Towers in Saudi Arabia.
Killed Americans last week.
Iran
this week.
was,
Yeah,
and no
this
one
week.
knows this.
Right.
If you look at Havlish versus bin Laden, a legal case, Iran was intimately involved in planning, facilitating, and funding 9/11. Did you hear what I
9/11.
said? Iran was involved in 9/11. So even if no Israel existed, we have to go after this terrorist regime that endangers America and the West without Israel. So when he talks about as if this is a bad war, we shouldn't really be in it, when he implies that, he's wrong. This is a very important war, and America is doing all they can to weaken Iran. And let me say something. We should feel great, really, happiness. Before 10/7, Israel was in much worse shape than they are today. Today, they've degraded Hamas, Israel has, Hezbollah, Iran with America's help, the Houthis. Israel's in much better shape than it was before 10/7, and we've degraded our enemies. They don't threaten us as much as they did before 10/7. So as big as a nightmare 10/7 was, one of the great atrocities and massacres in human history, somehow something positive, and not 10/7 never should have happened, but something positive happened because of it. So these people, these Jewish people, and by the way, we should never say 1,200 people were killed. Even 1,200 Israelis were killed. 1,200 Jews were killed. They were going after Jews. And I always say 1,200 Jews were murdered, raped, massacred, and tortured. But Israel, with God's help, with America's help, we now have degraded many of the terrorist entities in the Middle East, and we should be grateful for that and appreciate that.
That's great. That's great. Very, very important point that you're making, Mort. We're talking with Morton Klein, the head of the ZOA, the Zionist Organization of America. I guess one of the greatest activist organizations that exist on the landscape of Jewish life internationally, in America for sure, but certainly here in the United States during very challenging and difficult times. We talk about going forward, what will happen after the midterm elections. You don't want to talk about specific races, but I mean, what about some of the people that are in office already that claim to be defenders of the Jews, like Chuck Schumer, for example? Can you talk about him? He must be a former friend of your organization. I'm sure he's been a guest at your dinners in the past.
I'm very disappointed with Chuck Schumer and many of the other leaders of his party. They have not come out condemning the Jew haters, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Ayanna Presley, Betty McCormick, and others.
They keep popping up
because
more
they
more.
see that their constituency supports
Right.
hating Israel and hating Jews.
Is okay.
The vast
Very
majority
popular.
of Democrats, the polls show it, have enmity and hatred toward the Jewish people and toward Israel. That's a fact. And Chuck Schumer has not condemned this. He could really be a hero for us. He has a very powerful position, and he's not using his podium to protect Jewish Americans from Jew hatred.
Remember
This-
what he did to Netanyahu?
This was hatred against blacks or Asians or Muslims. He'd be condemning it. And he says virtually nothing. Very disappointed in Chuck Schumer. And I know him very, very well. And he's a friend. But his actions are a very disappointment. But
Have you communicated that to him directly? Have you had the opportunity to do that?
a number of occasions I've expressed concern. Yes.
Well, how does he defend it? How does he defend himself? What does he say?
He says, I'm doing things more that you don't know about behind the scenes.
Not much.
Do you know who's become our biggest public political champion? Who's our biggest public
Fetterman.
political champion? Ted Cruz.
Ted Cruz?
Always though.
Ted Cruz.
Always.
Is I would say is the single biggest champion of the Jewish people right now in the political world. And Tom Cotton.
And Tom Cotton.
And
What about John Fetterman?
And Fetterman.
and John Fetterman.
Yeah.
It was quite a surprise the
Now,
way Fetterman
understand.
turned around.
What Fetterman and Cruz are saying is not extraordinary. They're just telling the truth of what's going on with Jew hatred. they're just decent people telling the truth. It's like Noah. Noah was not an extraordinarily righteous man. He was a decent man. What was extraordinary about Noah, the Torah tells us this, was that he was in the midst of a society that was corrupt and filled with all sorts of sinning and terrible actions. And by comparison, it's extraordinary that Noah maintained being a decent man. Not extraordinary only in comparison to his society. Fetterman and Cruz and others are not saying things that are extraordinary. It's extraordinary in comparison to the rest of the politicians who are saying nothing or saying hateful things. That's what's extraordinary about John Fetterman and Ted Cruz, that in the midst of this enormous enmity toward the Jewish people, where it's politically beneficial to show enmity toward Israel and the Jewish people, they stand up and say, no, this is wrong. And I deeply appreciate it.
Okay,
We
well,
all
you told
appreciate
us.
it, all Jews. And all decent people. Evangelical Christians appreciate it.
Right.
You told us that you live in Philadelphia, so that's part of the, the what's the Keystone State? Is that what they call it? Do I have that right?
Yes.
Keystone?
Yeah, that's Pennsylvania. Your governor is Josh Shapiro.
Yeah.
Yes,
good
I've
Jewish
known
boy.
Josh Shapiro for 35 or 40 years.
Well,
He was almost chosen as vice president.
And he wasn't for this
What's
reason.
what's your reading on why he didn't?
Let
become...
me tell you something about Josh Shapiro. I've known him for 35 years. I knew him when his first job as chief of staff to Congressman Joe Huffle, who happened to be my congressman, a Democrat. When Obama went to run for president, Barack Hussein Obama, the most hateful man toward Jews in a Jewish state in the history since Israel was recreated in 48. Josh Shapiro founded an organization called Jews for Obama. Shapiro founded Jews for Obama, and he was the director of Jews for Obama. I called Josh Shapiro then and spent an hour on the phone with him explaining how heinous Obama is toward the Jewish people and toward Israel. It went in one ear and out, went in one ear and went out the other. He listened to me politely, didn't ask any questions, showing he wasn't that interested, but was polite. And then he continued fighting for this massive Jew hater, Barack Hussein Obama.
Do you think he got it? Do you think he understands it?
Several weeks ago, he publicly said, I condemn Benjamin Netanyahu for bullying, his word, bullying President Trump into the Iran war, which is bad for the United States of America.
He didn't get it.
He condemned Netanyahu for bullying Trump, saying it's a war that's bad for America, when this is good and imperative for America. And he condemns Netanyahu in an era of the scourge of rising Jew hatred. A Jewish governor gives credence and gives a basis to hate Jewish people with this lie. And not only what I told you, he gave $5 million grant to an anti-Semitic, anti-American mosque school in Philadelphia. Josh Shapiro gave them $5 million of Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars to this anti-Semitic, anti-American school in Philadelphia. So I'm not too pleased with the policies and actions of Josh Shapiro.
That's an interesting way to be able to communicate to President Trump what's wrong with the Jewish people today.
With the Jews?
When you just have to cite, and does Shapiro feel at all that he wasn't selected as Kamala Harris's vice presidential candidate because he was too Jewish, as they say, as Jackie Mason would say, too Jewish?
He's very ambitious. I believe he clearly wants to be president. I believe he would have accepted the vice presidency, but I've never discussed that issue with him. But I'm not pleased with his policies.
I could imagine.
Yeah, he keeps getting voted in.
Well, Pennsylvania is interesting.
State.
As what they call that, more of like is it a purple state or is it lean Democrat?
It's a purple state. Look, we have one Democratic senator, one Republican senator, McCormick and Fetterman.
It could go. It could go either way.
Yes. Look, Trump,
in Pennsylvania.
Trump won the state, right? He won the state.
Right. So, if you were asked, I know you're not endorsing candidates, although I have to tell you, I thought that the business of not being able to endorse candidates from the pulpit, so to speak, has been changed because there isn't a church in America that doesn't it
I know,
doesn't
but
endorse from the
churches
pulpit.
always were supporting certain candidates, and no one
Right.
ever did a thing. It was illegal, and no one ever did a
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, but wasn't
Not
that
the rabbis.
wasn't that amendment? Wasn't that John? It's called the Johnson Amendment, I think.
I think it changed that churches and that religious institutions are allowed to
Yeah,
endorse
but the
and
Jews,
oppose.
but the shuls, our shuls are still afraid to tell
But
people who to
rabbis
vote.
never did. They were always afraid. They
Well, they
rarely
want to get
did.
they want to
All
get
right.
money from both sides.
All right, so we have to clarify.
You know.
The shuls aren't getting any money from the
No,
the
from their
president.
own people.
But you have to understand that that amendment, that rule has been repealed, and you can endorse from the pulpit. And the non-Jewish religious institutions, like the churches specifically, do endorse and encourage people who to vote for. That's in their best interest. But even though this amendment was repealed, the synagogues think that it's brand new. It's in the Constitution of the United States that you can't endorse anybody or speak about what's best for the Jewish community. Maybe it's just too confused of a group of people. I was in Poland, and I was on a bus going from I don't know from where to the airport in Warsaw, and there was a video about the founding of the State of Israel, and one of the people in the meeting in the Jewish agency was saying, because the state was largely built by people who had survived the Holocaust, who made it out of Europe alive. And someone said, how are we going to build a state with these people? They can't be normal after what they went through. How are we going to be able to build a state? Is that one of
Can't
the
be normal.
problems?
Many Holocaust survivors built extraordinary businesses, were extremely productive.
That's true.
So
And
many
they built
Holocaust
the
survivors
country.
have done extremely well. They're an extraordinary group. Look, those who
Right.
survived the Holocaust shows they had some unique abilities to be able to survive. And so they're a
Yeah,
special
that's true.
people. They're
That's
they're
true.
not
Both my parents are sole survivors.
well, so are
My
mine.
mother was 9. My father was not much older.
Well,
Yeah.
it shows their strength because they survived. Apparently, it took a certain strength to be able to.
But the
to
Jews, let me
survive.
tell you, continue to be very liberal. We met a year ago with Gideon Sar, the foreign minister of Israel. All the heads of the Jewish organization met with him in Israel.
Yeah.
The foreign minister said to all of us, Israel's getting enormous pressure to make major concessions to the Palestinians and even to set up a state. I plead with you, please publicly go out and oppose a Palestinian state, explaining why this will be a terrible danger to the Jewish people of Israel. Do you know, not a single organization at that time came out and opposed it. To this minute, the only organizations of significance who publicly oppose the state is ZOA, me, my organization, and JINSA, I believe, has recently come out opposing it. Not the Orthodox Union, not Amit, Amuna, Young Israel, B'nai B'rith, AIPAC, AJ Committee. Ted Deutsch wrote an op-ed this past year supporting a state, Dafka, saying we need a Palestinian state. Dennis Ross, a Washington Institute for Near East Policy, Dennis Ross wrote an op-ed, we need a Palestinian state, despite the fact that Gideon Sar begged us not to oppose it publicly, and Bibi publicly opposes it. You know, when the Jewish groups were supporting Oslo and the Gaza withdrawal, and I was opposing it, they would say to me, Mort, we support the policies of the democratically elected government of Israel. They support Oslo, we support Oslo. They support throwing the Jews out of Gaza, we support it. Well, now the democratically elected government of Israel opposes the Palestinian state publicly. 80% of the Israelis in their own polls oppose it, and yet the Jewish groups refuse to publicly oppose a Palestinian state because they're really just a bunch of left-wingers. They don't really support the democratically elected government of Israel unless that government is left-wing. Then they'll support it. So OU, the Orthodox Union, has not publicly opposed it.
Yeah,
When I've asked the
and-
leaders of OU, I know them all, they say it's too controversial. I can't do it.
Yeah, and people like Chuck Schumer, the Shomer Yisrael, will tell you that the answer to the problem is forming a second state, a two-state solution.
Right, just like they said, get out of Gaza. It got them a lot, right? They said, get out of Gaza, we're going to have peace.
look, the Arabs have been offered a state 8 times in the last 80 years. You hear? 8 times in 80 years. The first was 1937, the Peel Commission. They were offered 95%, the Jews 5% of the rest of Palestine. 80% of Palestine was already given away to Jordan. And the Arabs said no to 95.5, said no. Resolution 181, 1947-48, 50-50, they said no. Ehud Olmert offered the Arabs,
he was
didn't
going to give
compromise.
everything away.
Ehud Olmert offered them 97% of Judea and Samaria, 3% of Israel to make up for the 3% they can't give away because there's 500,000 Jews there, half of Jerusalem, and Abbas said no, because they will not accept Israel as a Jewish state within any borders. This nonsense that this two-state solution is no solution, because the issue is Israel's existence. It has nothing to do with concessions or land or Palestinian statehood. It has to do that the Jews have sovereignty in their midst, and they believe that that land is their holy Muslim land, and they will never agree to a Jewish state, and they haven't in all these years to this minute.
Well, Israel's. I saw a piece in the news today that Israel's. I think it's the economics minister, Smotrich.
He's the finance minister.
Finance minister. He said today. We're recording this on July 21st, I think. He said that he's looking forward to the day when the settlement communities are reestablished in Gaza.
That's what I heard.
So there is.
There was a big
there is some hope.
demonstration in Israel with dozens of members of Knesset marching to that Jews should move to Gaza and live there. Why can't Jews live among Arabs in Gaza? Arabs live among Jews in Israel, but we're not allowed to live? This is enormous racism.
Trump and Kushner and Witkoff, they want to build new homes. They want to build new homes for people in Gaza.
I don't think it's for the Israelis.
Oh, why not?
Why not?
You have to fight for that. Listen, it's always great to talk to you and catch up on what's really going on in the Jewish world. And it might feel a little isolated, maybe a little organizationally lonely sometimes. But you're fighting a good fight, and you're
A truthful fight.
and you're a great voice. And it's really refreshing to be able to spend a little time with you and putting it out there on the air for people to hear. But so thanks very much for spending a little time with us and sharing some of your thoughts and ideas. Morton Klein.
Well, thank you. We look forward to the possibility of you coming to our dinner this year, November 15th, Sunday night in Manhattan. Our keynote speaker is confirmed. It's a guy named Mike Huckabee.
Mike Huckabee.
Oh, we know him well.
He's great.
He'll be our keynote speaker.
Wow.
And we have some other people, not totally confirmed yet, but some other very good people.
Okay, we're looking forward to that. Morton Klein, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you for all your work in helping more Jews understand the reality of the Arab-Islamic war against the Jews, the Jewish state, and the West. That is something more people have to understand.
Right.
Thanks
very much. All the best.